You're listening to the Fezcast, produced on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and featuring the independent thoughts, rants and rambles of Saracens fans and special guests. If you'd like your opinion to be heard on the show, you can find the Fezcast on Facebook or Fezcast_SSA on Instagram and whatever Twitter is known as these days. But for now, enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast with me, Jez, and joining me tonight, Duncan. And Duncan, I was going to call this show One Win, One Slam and One Cup, to paraphrase John Lee Hooker with his one beer, one scotch, one bourbon. Well, I mean, that's a sensible idea given the news that come out of Mallorca this morning, is it?
No, it's not a day to be discussing alcohol unless you want to get tasered.
Well, yeah. I must admit, Paul Williams' comment about, Billy Vernapona being a two-taser rugby player, Ardy Surveyor would probably be a four-taser. Jonah Loom would have been about 10, wouldn't he, I think? But, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, I was bunkers at the club today, Ollie at the club. We've got to be very careful. Other than say that, I think somebody's probably seen an opportunity, shall we say, to get some notoriety for their bar.
Yeah, in that list of who's a two-taser and who's a four-taser, I like the one about Dan Bigger being someone you could rub against a balloon and stick. He'd be the equivalent of that. But, as you say, who knows what's happened. I wouldn't be surprised. I expect the Spanish police are a bit fed up with a certain genre of British tourist who goes over there and drinks a lot and causes trouble, and then they turn up and see one huge, great Vunipola there and think, bloody hell, how do we deal with this? But as you say, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of back chat, maybe, He's a big guy, he's an impressive guy. Those of us who, I'm not putting myself in the Billy Vunipola ones, but, if you work doors or anything like that, you do get kind of people looking at you in that way. Although there's no truth in the rumour that Luke Pearce is asking for a law change that next time Billy backchats him on the field, that he could taser him instead of walking him back 10 yards, I suppose.
It could be the next competition, couldn't it?
Well,
could be how you decide a draw. You taser one until someone scores.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think the thing is, it's all going to come out in the wash. The club will deal with it in the right way. We know that for certain. He's taking his advice. I mean, I think the one thing we will say, knowing full well that Billy's flying back to Britain today, when he sees his mum and dad for the first time, I should think they'll have a few choice words for him as well. And that was probably the thing that he fears most, Duncan.
Probably. Now, I've got to say, the way that the club came out with an early statement and then pretty soon a very good statement from Billy that, again, damped it all down. Got to say that the whoever's running the PR there, I don't think anybody could have done a better job to try and dampen this down.
Absolutely not. And of course, the problem is as well, when you get people like the Daily Fail involved in it and the Graniad and people who don't, check press release or, check the facts first, they've gone in there all guns blazing. You often think sometimes these papers have an axe to grind with certain people, with certain clubs. It's an unfortunate incident, but I don't think we need to play it up too much more than that, really, do we?
Yeah, you have to keep an open mind. As you say, the Daily Mail is banned as a reference on Wikipedia because it usually fails a fact-checking test. When the story came out, you have to think, let's see what the truth really is down the line. And, that's where we stand.
Well, absolutely. Well, look, let's park it there, and I'm sure we'll revisit it next week or in the weeks to come when more information comes out. But, I mean, it does put a little bit of a damper on what was an excellent weekend of rugby, Duncan, starting on Friday night down in Bath at the Rec with a statement win, I think. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't free-flowing rugby, which is a bit of a shame. I blame Bath more than Saracens for that, though, as we were talking about it on our WhatsApp group. Bath are a free-flowing side that have been, ripping up trees at home, and suddenly they went and decided not to lose the game. I think that's what it was. It was two teams determined not to lose a very important game at the top of the league at the end of the season, Duncan.
And that's effectively what Ben said afterwards, didn't he? That it was the most like a test match he's been in terms of the tension and, the fear of losing. It was interesting that on social media, the commentators were getting a lot of stick for saying that, it's not a very good advert for the game and all that. I had to say at certain points in the first half, like I said on the WhatsApp chat, I was threatening to turn over and watch some rugby league just to see somebody pass to another player. But there were actually some great things. Both our brilliant tries were in the first half and they were superb. And there was a lot of good play. But the jewel of that match came at the end, didn't it? The tension when Bath had drawn level, and then the way that brilliant break that we made, a fantastic bit of team play through the hands, great from Owen Farrell, great from Nick Tompkins, brilliant run from Theo Dan, which got us the penalty, and then a very entertaining bit of game management from Owen Farrell as he ran down the clock, which went down well with the Bath supporters, and then Keystone Cops at the end, wasn't it? We gave it to them, they gave it to us, we gave it back, and finally we managed to boot it out.
Well, yeah, you say gamesmanship. Many people say shithousery from Faz, but we'll come to that a bit later on, Duncan. First of all, the big talking point of the first half, and I've got involved in an argument on Sarries Fans Forum with someone, and I can see both sides of it. Marrow got another yellow, which is, I think, his fifth this year. First things first, number one, and I put this out there on the various social medias and everything, I created a purple Venn diagram, the old pie charts where you have the red is one and blue's another, and you mix them together, and it's basically 100% of the people that, take contracting position. The position is here. Marrow, it's only Marrow, because it's Marrow, he didn't see red, he should have seen red, he got away with one. Juxtaposed with, if it had been any other player from any other club, they would have been all going, it was never a yellow, game's gone soft. And I think what we can actually see happening here is that Owen Farrell's off to France at the end of the season. Next cab off the rank for the player who's going to be irrationally hated by everybody else. It's Maro Itoje, isn't it, Duncan?
Maybe. I mean, the fact is that with those head-to-head contacts, it's a little bit random, a little bit luck of the draw. I can imagine many referees sending him off, giving him a red card. I think the referee got it right. It was a sort of glancing blow that he got with the side of his head, and the ref deemed that Luke Pearce deemed that there was mitigation to it, and so there was a yellow. I'm not sure you could argue either way if it had been yellow or red. It was head to head.
Yeah, I just think, there does need to be an element of common sense involved in this, and it was worthy of punishment, and yet it got the punishment. Likewise, Rotti, literally 20 seconds later, when he took out the winger in the air under a catch, perhaps that was worthy of a yellow as well, and people are moaning about that. I don't think it was, because it happened purely because of the way that Bath defended against those box kicks, which was just to put a wall of lazy runners that buffeted the attacking players. And that's something that needs to change in the game, because I think the way that teams, and Saracens do it as well, all teams do it, the way that they put this wall of lazy runners up, it doesn't create a fair competition. And the fact that Rotti, for a short guy, with that week in, week out, it wasn't just against Bath that he did it. He gets in there, he gets up and competes for those kicks time and time and time again. That's a real strength of his game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that wall of runners going back when a kick is made. Hard to imagine how they deal with it, to tell players where to run back, but it's definitely deliberate. Make a box kick and then prevent the players running into it. But he's so quick, Roti. He often manages to find a way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the other thing that people talk about Marrow's yellow card is the fact that, yellow cards cost teams and everything like that. And actually, it didn't cost us in this game, and it hasn't cost us in the past. I mean, we scored our second try with Marrow off the field. He was just about to return. Beautiful kick from Faz over to Roti. And you see, we'll talk about it when we talk about the Women's Six Nations as well. When France went down to 14 players, teams often lift, and they're coached to do that. And, if you're Marrow, he's had a few yellow cards recently, but he's a noticeable player on the field. A bit like Neil Back used to be years ago when he had a shock of blonde hair and you could see him, and therefore referees are looking for him. And, Maro Itoje's a big, impressive man that is noticeable on the field, isn't he? And, he's going to get pinged every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, he plays on the edge. But as you say, with that kick, second game in a row, absolutely wonderful cross-field kick from Owen. And when you look at it back, he did two dummies. He quickly dummied to pass and then made out like he was going to go for a drop goal and then kicked it to Roti. It was brilliant. And from a position where he was crowded out, there was nothing really on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. What a brilliant performance. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think we went down there and just showed a little bit more ambition in the key moments than Bath did. And, I think the guys in commentary picked up, in particularly Austin Healy, that Bath really showed a little bit of, I don't know what it is, fear maybe, inexperience, perhaps inexperience of those type of games, Duncan.
I think that's probably right. There are those who said that we masterfully managed to close their game down. Even when they, in the second half, when they started to open it up, they started to pass, that our defence was closing them down and stopping all their options. But it's certainly true that, whereas our two tries were a thing of beauty, theirs were pushovers. Nothing wrong with that. We've scored enough pushover tries, but they were very much brute force tries, weren't they? Whereas ours were being dangerous when we got the chance.
Indeed, and in one of their tries, I thought was a double movement and should never have been given. But there you go. That's a different thing. I didn't have the whistle in my hand, did I, Duncan?
No, we'd win every game if you did.
A bit like Harlequins then, and whenever they're refereed by Carl Dixon. But I know we won't get into that controversy.
That was a car crash waiting to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, in the same way that English referees should not be refereeing England, Carl Dixon just shouldn't be refereeing Harlequins, especially in a crunch game.
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of Saints fans who will be saying that Carl's not ever welcome at Franklin's Gardens for a little while, I should imagine.
I think there's no way that, he set out to give Harlequins an advantage. It's just ridiculous. But the fact is, he'll always be accused of it.
Indeed. But getting back to our game, of course, the one thing that we do need to reflect upon is that final moment. And I mean, yeah, it was chaos at the end, but we saw it out. We kept our heads on it. And I think perhaps the difference there was that we did have Owen Farrell on the field who just made a couple of decisions. And when it was the ball needed to go out, there were the right heads on the pitch who weren't going to throw a long pass out. And I think also it helped that we weren't going for, we weren't thinking we're going to get our points difference up because we were playing Gloucester. But yeah, the absolute cajones of Owen Farrell, that when he's got a kick at goal and he's going to run that clock down as far as he wants. Now, people are criticising Luke Pearce because a couple of weeks ago he had a pop at Finn Smith, didn't he? When Finn Smith was doing the same and said, come on, speed it up, spirit of the game and everything. And I think someone, when everybody's saying, oh, no, he's not showing consistent because it's Owen Farrell. I think Owen Farrell would have turned around and said, this is in the spirit of the game because I've been given this period of time in which to kick. And I can use that time. And that's not against the spirit of the game. What Luke Pearce did, I think, with Finn Smith was the error that, yeah, okay, you've earned the right. You've got your penalty. You've earned the right to take the time to kill the game off. And that's what he did. And I think, yeah, Finn Smith may grow into that kind of Owen Farrell aura, a bit like Martin Johnson forcing the Irish president to get his shoes dirty all those years ago as well. It's having that aura about you that, yeah, no. I'm actually in charge of this moment, Luke, not you. And I think, they got it absolutely right, didn't they? Not that your Bath fan would appreciate it.
I mean, nerves of steel. They have a review after every game, referees, don't they? And it's possible after the Finn Smith incident, the referees amongst themselves decided that they wouldn't do that. Yeah. So come this game, he's following the party line. But when you watch it back and you see the clock ticking down, and he waits till 4 seconds to go to kick the ball, and Andy's messed it up once before for England. It was tense. It's tense even when you know he's going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could watch that game back now and I'd still be screaming at him to get over and deal with it. But look, we got a win, as I say, a statement win. We're second in the league. 2 games to go. 2 big, massive games to go. Bristol away next up in, not this weekend, the weekend after. Win that, second place is ours, isn't it? Regardless, I think, of what happens everywhere else. But, I mean, it is so tight, isn't it? But what I do think is that game against Bath does prove that if we get 3rd or 4th, it wouldn't matter because we've got the ability to go away better than anybody else, even now, and get a victory. And to the extent that I've got a friend of mine at work, Stuart, who's a Saints fan, and he turned around and he said, whatever happens, can you get second place? Because we don't want to play you in the knockout semi-finals.
Well, I don't blame him, but this season, I don't think you can count on anything, and especially as we've beaten Bath away once, and especially this season, beating them away again will not be easy. I think that we've got to win both the remaining games, and because Bath play Newcastle, I think we've got to get at least 1 bonus point to get the home semi. And I still think it's extremely important to get the home semi. I wouldn't want to go to Bath again and have to win. That was a tight game. Could have gone either way.
Absolutely, it could have done. Well, look, I think that's enough of the men's game. Shall we move on after the break to the women's game? Because there was 2 massive results involving Saracens players.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, yeah, as I said at the top of the show, we're going to call this one win, 1 slam, 1 cup. Let's go with the slam first. England on Saturday against France in a proper test match, and the Women's Six Nations has had a bit of criticism saying that England have walked it. Against France, with 28,000 people in the Bordeaux Stadium that we know is a very difficult place to go to, number one. England really put in a standout performance. And, I've got to make an apology at this point because at the start of the tournament, I was questioning whether John Mitchell was the right man for the job. But I think John Mitchell has proven that he has taken an England team that was well put together by Simon Mitchelson before him, but has developed them further. And we were all sat there saying, can this England women's team develop further than what they have? And the Red Roses have proven it in spades, haven't they?
Yeah, Marley Packer said that she was really pleased to be well into the Mitchell era. And the team seemed to have got what he's about and really be playing to it. We've seen a bit too much of that Bordeaux Stadium this season. It gave me the shivers just looking at it again. And it was a bad omen, but it was nip and tuck for what would you say, 40, 50 minutes?
Yeah.
And then the Red Roses really had it under control, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they got two reasonably early tries, and then France rode a peg back, and then they got another one. So the gap was always consistent, and it just seemed that, France were able in periods to throw an awful lot. And I will say the French scrum half, I mean, she has read the Austin Healy, Matt Dawson, Naki scrum half book from back to front, hasn't she? A bit of Pierre Bizier in there as well. I mean, she was all over the place, and she was, any chance to grab the ball off of someone, she was taking it, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. She was a proper old style scrum half almost.
Yeah, they've got great players all over the pitch. The commentators were saying that they don't have as many professional players as we do, and therefore perhaps outside the first 15 there's not as much quality to choose from, but that's going to change. You had 28,000 people in Bordeaux, clearly a lot of interest over there, and we know that it's the number one rugby arena in Europe, so I think that these contests are going to get closer and closer. Absolutely,
and I think that whole thing will mean that England again will have to improve building into this next World Cup. I think it's great, particularly if you're looking at the competition that's going to be. Are New Zealand getting that same intensity down in the Southern Hemisphere? Are the USA, are Canada getting that same intensity where they are? I think the important thing for England is that in every game they played, they had to work hard. They didn't just turn up and stroll in. And even when they beat Ireland by a cricket score, they were still made to work for those tries. They had to go through processes. They had to go through phases. They had to do things accurately to get what they got. And that's all good. And that, I think, built them up to that France game where they were very, very accurate. And the important thing from the France game as well, considering France lost a player to a red card, is that they kept their discipline and the penalty count was right down.
Yeah. That's a very impressive thing to lose a player like that and keep the penalty count low. It's hard to know. I mean, it's good that the World Cup's coming up, isn't it? To see to get another competitive team in the mix. It's what England need right now. Yeah. We've talked before about how can the other nations catch up, and it's going to take time. That's going to take time and invest. Scotland, it seems to be coming along. So excellent that the World's coming up and World Cup's coming up, and it's going to be interesting to see how England get on against New Zealand.
And indeed, and then if you look at the other teams in the competition outside of playing England, games were close. Wales beat Italy on the weekend by 2 points. Ireland beat Scotland by 3 points. There's an intensity to those games as well, which will only drag those sides up and closer because, they've got to work harder. There's no easy games. Even for England, there were no easy games, was there?
No. And that's what we need to see. And we need to see it getting more competitive, as we have done in the PWR, in the Women's League. Now got, it used to be between us and Harlequins, and now you've got Bristol and Gloucester and Exeter, and it's become a real competition. And I'm sure that the women's international game will become more like that as well.
Indeed, it will do. Look, fantastic Six Nations, I think. Well done. Looking forward to that. But looking forward to our players now coming back to the club. And after the break, we'll talk about them coming back to a club with a bit of silverware in the trophy cabinet this season.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hi, Alex Osterbury here, Director of Rugby for Saracens Women. You're listening to the Saracens Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, yeah, last part of our Fezcast tonight, Duncan, and we're going out on a big high because Sunday saw a mixture team, I think it's fair to say, of experience and youth. and possibly the smallest back row you'll ever likely to see, with Briley Cleal at 8 and May Campbell on the flank for the Saracens women against Bristol Bears. I mean, honestly, I think you stood them on each other's shoulders, you wouldn't get much above Billy Vanapolis size, would you? But I mean, a fantastic performance down in Bristol. You know, we were bemoaning the fact that we had to go away, but they went down to Bristol and won in the end quite handsomely with a fantastic performance to pick up the Allianz Cup.
Yes, and it was the second half that did it. The first half was kind of strange, because looking at it, thinking they're not going to lose this. The defence was so solid. They were putting such pressure on Bristol. And then there were a couple of great breaks by Bristol, and suddenly they were, what, was it 2 tries up?
Yeah.
But they came out from the second half, and it was those experienced players, I think, the back line, as you said, plus Akina Gondwe, and also Amelia McDougall was really key. But I felt it was the pressure, the pressure of Sharifa Kasolo and Bryony Cleal and all of those players that really made the difference in the second half and got the win.
Indeed, yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And I mean, as well, Sonic playing in the second row, a great swan song for her at the end of her career. You're absolutely right. I think the important thing is to remember that in the game of rugby, you will have moments when you're on the back foot, and you'll have moments when you're in ascendancy. And it's the moments when you're on the back foot, when you show a bit of dog, when you show a bit of fight, where you stay in the fight. Look, think of a boxing parlance. You sometimes see it where a boxer has to hold on at the end of a round and get his breath back, but then can come back and re-go again. And that's what we did. I mean, for a period of time, that first half, we seemed to be a little bit on the ropes, a bit of rope-a-dope, the old Muhammad Ali thing, but then a knockout punch. And wow, once they got that emphasis going, that ascendancy going, they then showed a ruthlessness which was really, really good to see, and I think bodes well for the rest of the season.
Oh, it certainly does. I haven't seen a handful of women's games this season, and every single one they seem to have a problem in the first half, especially at the breakdown, giving away a lot of penalties, and then dominance in the second half. I know that it didn't happen that way in our game against Exeter, but that's what's happened in the games that I saw. And this game was exactly the same. And in the last 20 minutes, were Bristol anywhere near our line? I don't think so. We seem to be camped out down the Bristol end, just applying that pressure.
Absolutely. And I mean, also what was important as well was the amount of people who made their way down to Bristol. And I think an awful lot of people made a weekend of it. Friday night in Bath, and then, have a walk around Bath on Saturday, lording it over the locals, as it were, and then down to Bristol on the Sunday. And I know Alex Osterbury and a few of the girls made the comment about how good the support was. And it's a slight shame that, Bristol made every effort to try and get Bristol fans there, and Bristol weren't playing, either, that they couldn't have got more people to go and support their women down at Dings.
It just shows you they were offered season ticket holders down there were offered to get in for free. It was a huge shame, without disparaging the ground. It wasn't a top class ground by any means, was it? Great shame it wasn't at Stonex. A, it would have been a more fitting setting for a final, and B, it would have been interesting to see how many we would have got in, because the women's crowds have been growing. But there you go. The rules were the rules. We didn't get it, so there's no point complaining.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, all you can do is beat what's in front of you, wherever it is, and that's what we did. So I'd like to say, on behalf of everybody at the Fezcast, congratulations to Alex Osterbury and the team, and all the coaches and everybody involved in Saracens Women. Absolutely brilliant performance, and let's hope the Allianz Cup is the first of another 2 trophies this season, Duncan.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Wow.
There's one thing I don't normally like to moan about things. There's one thing I'd really like to moan about, if I may.
Go on,
and that is that the men have got 2 league games left. The women haven't got that many more left either. It's a month between men's games. So what's a really good idea, do you think, to put the women's next league game on May the 11th and the men's next league game on May the 11th on at almost exactly the same time?
Indeed, and probably, quite possibly, the men's game will be on the telly as well.
Exactly. I mean, does it have to be that way? Is there nothing anybody can do to separate them so that perhaps you could go to StoneX, watch the men on the TV and then watch the women? Is it really that difficult?
You wouldn't have thought so, would you? And I mean, we often say that we're not the people with the checkbooks or the minds or the brains to deal with this, but it's just common sense, isn't it?
It's crazy. Absolutely. I'd love to know what the obstacles are. I mean, the Saracens, it won't make too much of a dent in that 5.2 million loss we just made last year, but at least they'd sell some beer because people could be able to watch the men and the women at the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, something perhaps we shall put to our new CEO, Mark Thompson, who has been a bit more visible in the recent days, and maybe we'll get the opportunity to ask him a few questions before the end of the season. But talking of the end of things, I think we're probably best off finishing the show here, Duncan, aren't we? And just to say to everybody, we'll be back on the 8th of May with our next show, building up to that Bristol game and the women's game as well against Gloucester. 2 massive games on the same day. Yes, you're absolutely right, Duncan. But thank you to everybody listening in. And, thank you for a fantastic weekend of rugby. If a slightly less fantastic weekend off of the game. I'm off for an amaretto and orange juice now because apparently it's the drink of choice.
Watch yourself. Don't get near any police.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, no. But yeah, thank you, everybody. All the best, and we'll see you next week on the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.